Today's story was written by Reddit user Catfish21SM. Mission Log 00. I was promoted to captain of this vessel after the last captain retired due to unfortunate mental trauma after attempting to assassinate a human. Humans are hardier than we initially imagined possible. It would be difficult to corner a human diplomat within the Galactic Council and attempt assassination with a blunt force weapon without getting caught. However, it might be possible, and it is seeming more and more like that is our only option. Thus, I have been tasked with finding the cleanest and most effective method to kill humans. Central Command has been kind enough to send us a human family to experiment on. It is complete with 2 adults, 1 male and 1 female, and 2 larvae, also 1 male and 1 female. We transported them to one of our remote ocean worlds and gave them a small housing unit on the beach and supplied them with their basic needs. Result? The salinity of the water is far more than the normal required amount needed to cause severe burns or even death for many galactic species, at least those who did not evolve in this type of environment. Our information about humans indicates they evolved in a world largely covered by this type of water. However, they should prefer fresh water. The fact that they are resistant should be expected, but the fact that they are so protective of their larvae should mean that they would never allow them to play in this type of environment. And yet, conclusion. Considering the extreme salinity of the water and the fact that the waves are strong enough to easily rip an average specimen of my species into pieces, this might be harder than I initially thought. Mission Log 01. We began our testing with the larvae, as they are known to be less resistant than human adults. If we succeeded, then scaling up and killing the human adults before aggression began should hopefully be possible. The easiest method of assassination would probably be a small plasma rifle shot to a vulnerable. We fired upon the female larvae with a blast that would cause the internal gases of an average member of our species to expand and either result in a controlled explosion or fatal injuries. Result? The human child let out a whelp indicating that they felt pain. We did not know that humans could run that fast, especially human children. She grabbed the gun from its wielder and proceeded to shoot him at full power. After exploring, she began laughing and shooting Annie and all other members of our species nearby. We tried to retaliate with more weapons fire of our own, but later she informed her parents that she had received an ouchie and expressed her joy at the new toy that she got. Her parents expressed their gratitude towards us for playing with their daughter. Conclusion: human children are deranged psychopaths. Do not approach. Mission Log 02. After the unfortunate loss of many of our men, and the apparent deranged larvae, we began to probe the parental units for more information about their species. We could not inform them of our losses, as it might expose our assassination attempt on their daughter. Everyone knows what happens when you anger a human. Thus, it was a happy coincidence that the human child referred to the deceased members of our species as balloons. Apparently, those are a type of human recreational device. They do not look anything like a member of my species. However, we were not going to complain about this fortunate misunderstanding. As we were contemplating and planning for our next assassination attempt, we became very lucky. One of the apex predators of this world decided to attack the human male larvae. It appears the larvae received quite a bit of damage as they began to cry for their parents. Human crying and screaming, while not quite enough to be damaging to a member of our species, is still quite horrifying. It's easy to understand how this evolved as a defense mechanism for human larvae. After detaching the predator's grasp from their child, the parents began to soothe their child. Then, after dark, when the predators were more active, the humans, including their children which were just attacked, began gathering lights and baskets and started to hunt the apex predators. It became obvious at that moment how the humans became the apex predators of their homeworld. They immediately recognized the only weakness of this predator and began to exploit it, capturing many of them alive. It took many experts of our species many months using a sophisticated AI to learn how to perform the tasks that the humans seemed to instinctively pick up on. The humans also proved that they were true pursuit predators as they hunted for many hours without ceasing, finally culminating in them, boiling the predators alive. At first, we assumed this was to lower the threat level surrounding their camp. We were wrong. Result? The humans said that the alien crabs were good, but not as good as the ones found on their homeworld. Apparently the shells, exoskeletons, that could repel many of our weapons were soft, and the muscle tissue capable of ripping small limbs from an average member of my species was very tender. The claws capable of easily cutting through the flesh of my species delivered a mild pinch. The humans concluded that overall, the predator was not as tasteful as the ones found on their homeworld, but were much weaker and easier to hunt. They explained that they would like to try this hunt again before their vacation ended. Conclusion: humans by all rights deserve their title as apex predators. Mission Log 03. After the incident with the predators of this world, we concluded that nothing short of medical-grade surgical equipment would be able to pierce the human flesh, even that of a child. As such, we did not want to risk exposure by bringing out such specialized equipment. Apparently HQ had informed the humans that they had won an all-expenses-paid vacation to a luxury beach resort, complete with private beach and family fun activities. They planned to explain to the human ambassadors that an unfortunate and unexpected natural disaster killed the humans, and pay appropriate reparations in order to get off the hook and avoid suspicion. It was well worth it for these perfect test subjects. We did discover from the predator of this world that blunt force trauma might be effective against the humans. Thus, we resorted to one of our world's ancient ballistics weapons. Plasma weapons were much more effective, however, no one wanted a repeat of that experiment. We shot the male larvae with our handheld ballistics device. He began crying, as he had done when the predator viciously attacked him. The adults came to check on him. We were terrified when they arrived. They saw our gun and asked to look at it. In a panic, the recruit dropped their weapon. After examining the weapon, the adult human male let out a sigh, showing exasperation, and compared the weapon to one of their own recreational devices called an airsoft gun, followed up by the remark, "These really hurt. We understand that you want to play with our children, but please understand that human children are very weak and not very resistant to these types of toys. I'll be more than happy to play with you later though." We immediately turned down the human's request to play later, explaining that we were going to be busy at that time. The human seemed suspicious, but let it go. In exchange, they asked for something sweet to make it up to their child. We agreed, and one of our members almost had a panic attack when the human defines sweet as chocolate, which is apparently a common human confectionery treat containing not one, but 2 separate toxins, both known to be deadly among most galactic chamber species. Result: we did make some progress. Humans seem to be resistant to blunt force trauma, but not completely immune. Unfortunately, a normal weapon capable of killing a human larvae, let alone an adult, could in no way be considered conspicuous. Conclusion: as the previous captain had confirmed, humans cannot be poisoned. Additional testing for brute force damage may be the only plausible option for human assassination attempts. Mission Log 04. While greeting the replacement crew members after the female human larvae went on her balloon killing spree, one of our researchers made an interesting observation about the humans. They were performing an activity that they called diving. This required them to completely stop breathing for extended periods of time. They are apparently able to store air in one of their internal organs, which they call a lung. The human lung is an organ somewhat resembling a member of our species without tentacles. The lining on the lung apparently serves a similar function to that of our own skin. It absorbs needed particles from the air and distributes it to a blood fluid, which distributes it to other organs. However, while our species absorbs the air and uses various types of gases to make our body lighter, resulting in our ability to easily move about, curiously, the human lungs seem to be inverted, making them like sacs that store the air from the surrounding environment and use it slowly over time. This action allows the humans to act as semi-aquatic predators. This is made even more terrifying by the fact that they are more dexterous in water than most of the galactic chamber species that evolved as actual aquatic species. Furthermore, since they do not use a gill-like structure to breathe or absorb needed air particles through their skin like normal species, this means that even completely removing all of the air in their living quarters would not result in immediate death. They would be able to survive for an outrageous amount of time in a completely airless environment. Result: humans are apex predators both in and out of water. They are capable of withstanding intense water pressures, extreme salinity, and can even survive a completely airless environment for extreme periods of time. Conclusion: crew morale is starting to take a complete nosedive. Humans are starting to appear completely invincible to anything short of a planet-destroying weapon. Mission Log 05. We have wrapped our heads around what to do next. Most of our crew are terrified of the idea of even looking at the humans any longer. They don't even want to approach the human larvae, let alone the adults. But I know for a fact that we are so close to results. I can just feel it. We input all of our data and designated our best AI to create a weapon that would finally kill the humans. We finally got our result. It was a small metric firearm that consumed metallic projectiles and used a chemical reaction rather than high pressures to fire the projectile at speeds capable of breaking the sound barrier. To think that this is what it would take to kill a human, we immediately scrapped the idea. Not only would this be too loud for an assassination attempt, but it would be nearly impossible for one of our species' strongest warrior to even lift the thing, let alone fire it. And the recoil from such a device would probably rip off a tentacle, if not multiple. We fine-tuned the AI and reconfigured the parameters, and we did it. We finally found a plausible way to kill the humans. It would take extreme effort from our thinkers to find a way to use this as an assassination attempt, but it was the best that even our most sophisticated AI could come up with. Surely if this doesn't work, then the humans must be completely invincible. We started by taking large, solid, metallic sphere and carrying it to a height in which it would reach maximum velocity very quickly. Estimates conclude that if it were to hit a human just right, then it should theoretically puncture their skull and result in fatal damage. We proceeded with the experiment. Results: the humans, being natural apex predators from a death world full of other predators that would happily prey upon the apex predators from almost any habitable world in our galaxy, unsurprisingly, and yet somehow unexpectedly, have very strong natural instincts. These natural instincts are bordering on psychic powers that the humans speak about in their fiction stories. Not only did the human larvae easily dodge the deadly ballistics device, but they then proceeded to pick it up and throw it at speeds far exceeding its normal maximum velocity at the other human larvae, who then proceeded to easily dodge it and do the exact same thing. Conclusion: humans, by all rights, are invincible. Mission Log 06. I separate this into a separate mission log, but the events of this log directly follow the events of the previous log. I felt this to be a suitable result to create a separate log. We believe we have finally succeeded in our mission. we found a way to successfully assassinate a human. It was so simple, and it stared us in the face the entire time, and yet no one even noticed it. It should have been obvious, and yet we were too blind to see it. After several throws of the metallic sphere by the human larvae, one of the human adults ran toward them, shouting at them to stop. This caught the attention of the other human. Result: after several seconds they began to shout at one another over whose responsibility it was to watch over the larvae. They both blamed one another. Then the adult human female began to punch the human male, who simply defended. It appears that the attack, while not serious, would still have been enough to injure the human. If this included any form of weapon, then the attack might even be deadly. Conclusion: it appears that only humans can pose a significant threat to other humans. Mission Log 07. We did it. We finally killed the humans. All of them. Last night there was a terrible storm. It almost completely destroyed our research facility, a natural disaster equivalent to a 1,000-year superstorm on our homeworld. Most of our staff died. The air pressure outside was enough to crush most members of our species, let alone the acidic rain, which would slowly melt away the external layers of our skin, resulting in suffocation. The intense sound waves caused by the lightning strikes were enough to cause internal hemorrhaging, and if all of that didn't kill you, then the wind speeds capable of easily ripping our bodies limb from limb would finish you off. This type of superstorm is the entire reason our homeworld was classified as one of the 3 Category 1 death worlds in the galaxy. If we hadn't planned for something like this, then none of our crew would have survived. Unfortunately, such a storm being so rare in the galaxy, it is impossible to fully prepare. I suppose that the excuse that the HQ planned to give the humans came true after all, unfortunately. Results: the humans came over to greet us and check on our well-being after the storm. They said that their house must have been made of cardboard, as it collapsed in on itself under the air pressure, and that the roof and several walls just blew away. That house was actually made of an extremely durable substance, commonly used in construction on our homeworld. The humans commented at how they had trouble sleeping in the storm, but apparently their children had fun playing in the acid rain. If our species could cry, I think that I would have, as the human casually blew off a 1,000-year natural disaster like it was commonplace on their homeworld. Actually, come to think of it, a Category 9 death world, a natural disaster like this might in all actuality be commonplace in a world like that. Conclusion: do not anger the humans no matter what. Do not declare war. Do not attempt assassination. Simply don't. Mission Log 08. After losing more than 2/3 of my original staff, the humans walked away with nothing more than a few minor bruises, most of which were caused by their own actions. We delivered them safely back to their home, and they remarked that, other than the final night, their vacation was absolutely wonderful, and they thanked us for our kind treatment and overwhelming generosity. Result: I wanted to follow the path of the former captain and resign my position. However, out of a strong deduction to my people, and an even stronger sense of self-preservation, I felt that it would be in the entire galaxy's best interest if I remained on staff and took up the position of advisor on human affairs. Conclusion: fortunately, we were able to profit from this experience. My abilities as advisor allowed our people to start building infrastructure on several death worlds within our borders. Infrastructural included housing complex, battlegrounds, and recreational activities like balloon popping stands. We then began to rent these facilities to various human families as vacation getaways. Apparently the humans found these death worlds to be virtual paradises. Though not all of them enjoyed the low gravity, through this we were able to forge a strong and profitable relationship with the humans, and even gained some much needed leverage in our negotiations with them. It turns out that you do not need to assassinate human diplomats after all. Just offer them all expenses-paid vacation to a death world with death water, poisonous air, acid rain, common natural disasters, and wartime simulations using live ammunition, and they will be very open to negotiations.